Mashin Liner Mech.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Mashin Sentai Kiramager Episode 7. Another solid episode. I don't know why I tipped my hat like Episode 7, little lady. This was another good episode. I think I liked it better than last week. Not that I didn't like last week's. I mentioned last week how I just said the word last week I feel like 50 times. But I had mentioned that even episodes of last week, I don't know why I said it like that. Why am I weird at the start already? Even though last week's episode was one of my lesser favorites, I've legitimately enjoyed every episode we've had so far, and this was no different. I think it was kind of, in a way, unless you didn't see the preview, because if you saw the preview, you knew stuff was going to be happening with the new Dino Mech stuff. But it was one of those episodes that if you didn't happen to see that, it would kind of sneak up on you, because it seems more like kind of a fillery episode, and then all of a sudden stuff happens at the end. Because like the core premise of the first half of the episode has mostly to do with Juru is being trained by the other Rangers, and they're like way overworking him because they all watched this program on leadership, so they're realizing like, oh hey, our leader, his power is Toku nonsense, we should probably train him in other skills, and they're basically wearing him thin. And then meanwhile, the villains have these two brother villains, like a fire and ice, together, and their goal is to get the last Game of Thrones book written. I'm just kidding, but I wish I wasn't, because I want that to be written. They're working together because it'll create like a more powerful dual monster, but not like dual monsters, like, it's time to duel. See how much is weirdness went already. Ayug, baby dragon. They have a hard time working together, and that leads to some problems, so like, Garza has to pull them out of the fight because they're fighting with each other is stopping them from fighting the Rangers. But then Garza pulls Ice Bro aside and he's like, yo, I get it. Big bros suck. Here's some cola. This cola will help you defeat your big bro because all big bros suck. And meanwhile, Juru's still more exhausted, and they do some more training, and Tana uses the Gemini. And I wanted to mention that because I really appreciate how often that's being used. I'm almost starting to get sick of it in a way, but I appreciate that that was something that was used. And as I mentioned before, if they do that throughout the series where we introduce other powers from the crystals that aren't weapon related, I hope they continue to reoccur. I really appreciate when shows don't forget about stuff like that and make use of it in useful situations. But so he's still training and getting tired, but then the villains are attacking again, but it turns out that the soda that he gave, or whatever, the power-up he gave Ice Guy, was actually to sabotage him. And Garza comes in and says like, you know, yes, I do hate older brothers, but I hate all weaklings more. And you are the weakest link. Goodbye. He uses his destruction to then summon the big old monster, and the Rangers go Mecha, but they start losing because Juru is weakened, and like when they're already starting to lose because the heat and ice is like cracking their mecha, which is kind of funny because in a meta way, because I get a lot of comments on my Kiramager mecha reviews about people worried about the clear plastic cracking, and so I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, so they're starting to lose the fight because of that, but then Juru's like, I need inspiration, and he can't get it because he's freaking exhausted, and that leads to him passing out, which leads to the mecha falling. So like, they're wearing him out in training has not paid off. But then at the end of the episode of Cliffhanger, the light train suddenly appears because during the training earlier, he got a vision of this mysterious light train, which Bra had dismissed as like an illusion or whatever, you know, a hallucination because he's been overworked. But it's tied obviously to that little white crystal, but then it shows up at the end, right when he needs it, in this sort of glowy silhouette of the mecha that's going to be the combined form of this light train, and the Dino Mech appears before the both of them. So I liked this episode. I do like the core idea of the Rangers wanting Juru to be better at other skills than Toku nonsense, because it only makes sense you'd want the person in charge of you to have more skills than nonsense. But obviously they're overworking him, and it was done obviously for comedic effect as well. But I feel like that group of people, or at least a couple of them, got to be smarter than that to realize they're going to wear him out, and he's not going to be useful in battle if he's absolutely exhausted. But like, I don't want to see the idea at the end of this arc dismissed as like, well, he's good as he is, just saying word salad and screaming. I think what needs to happen is the idea of them splitting out the training. So like, okay, Mondays you train a little bit with green, and then you have free time. And then Tuesdays with yellow, a little bit of training. So like, instead of training him all in one day, I like the idea of them continuing the training to up his other skills. But again, it was for comedic effect, but obviously they should have known they were going to wear him out. But I like the little bits of foreshadowing to the light train, and I don't know whether he can't fully help that right now because he's exhausted, but I liked that bit as well. And I also liked this episode had a little bit of attention paid to Garza. Like, as I've mentioned recently, that a lot of the Toku villains in Sentai the last few seasons have felt rather weak in the character development depart? I guess I was gonna say department, and then I was gonna say part, and then it just happens as depart. And we didn't really necessarily learn anything new other than Garza's, like, hatred isn't just about sibling relationships, he just hates weaklings. But it was kind of a nice bit of attention to be paid to his character, which I really appreciated, and it made, like, what could have been a filler episode feel more like we were learning a little bit more about the characters. And I thought the ending was really intense, and, like, I liked seeing the villains get the upper hand against the Rangers. And I like, with the debut of this new mecha, that it's being done nicely in terms of pacing. And, like, I feel like in a lot of other series that were more rushed with their debuts, the train would have showed up and then they would have immediately stolen the dino and transformed it into mecha and won. But I like that this has been set up previously with the debut of the Dino Mecha and the White Crystal, but then throughout this episode there was foreshadowing, and then at the end it ends on a cliffhanger. So I really like that. It makes the debut more satisfying when there's a nice build-up to it happening instead of just, oh hey look, we all of a sudden got this new mecha and won, go buy the toy. So yeah, another solid episode. I really enjoyed this one. I will give it an 8. I am looking forward to seeing me follow up next week and the debut of the new mecha. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know in the comments as usual. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.